Before I get on to the main subject matter of this video, we've got to congratulate West Ham for finally making their first summer signing of this window. And welcome to Haji Diouf, who was confirmed a West Ham player on Tuesday afternoon. He is the first of what we hope to be several summer signings, even though we're, 6-7 weeks into the transfer window. At least we finally kicked off our transfer business. And let's hope it's not too soon or too long, should I say, before the next signing comes through the door. Diouf passed his medical, and his unveiling as a West Ham player was confirmed that he will indeed be wearing the number 12 shirt, as he did for Slavia Prague. He is described as an outstanding athlete, a player who is a strong competitor with an eye for scoring and creating goals. He also impressed in European competitions for Slavia Prague and was also part of the Senegal team, who secured a historic victory over England back in June of this year. Diouf has signed a long-term contract and is expected to join West Ham's pre-season training, the training camp in Germany, either Wednesday or Thursday of this week. In his first interview, the player said that there was a lot of interest from teams around Europe, but he wanted to sign for West Ham. He chose West Ham after speaking with Graham Potter, and he decided that West Ham was a good plan for him. Now, despite a lot of fan negativity surrounding West Ham, fans asking, why would anyone half decent, want to sign for us? The signing of one of the most exciting young prospects around is a sign in itself that West Ham as a football club still has an awful lot to offer. And Graham Potter clearly has a vision that Diouf has bought into. So if we can attract one of the brightest young prospects in football, surely we can do it again in this window. Anyway, so now that Diouf is confirmed, all eyes are now focused on who we're going to be signing next. And central midfield has been taking sort of prominent place this week on social media. Now, look, if you're new to this channel, or if you've watched me before but yet to become a subscriber of the West Ham Voice, what are you waiting for? It costs absolutely nothing to subscribe. All the content is free. And if you enjoy this video, please do hit the like button at the end of the show, because that is as important, if not maybe more important, than subscribing. Right. It's no secret that West Ham need to strengthen the squad in a number of key areas in this window. Take your pick as to take your pick as to what you might deem to be a priority. Striker, goalie, another defender, a midfielder or two. And as far as central midfield is concerned, I'm beginning to lose track of how many players, how many central midfielders we've been linked to. But some of the latest names include the likes of Liverpool's Harvey Elliott, Juve's Douglas Luiz, Leicester's Bilal El Khanous, amongst many others. And whilst we need to find a new creative force in central midfield, we also need a solid defensive midfielder, and not to mention a box-to-box midfielder would be good as well. Now, one thing that could potentially hold up our ability to get any central midfielders in is the number of central midfielders we already have at the club. And just to remind you of who's still around, we have James Ward-Prowse, Lucas Paqueta, Edson Alvarez, Guido Rodriguez, Thomas Soucek, and Andy Irving. And then, in addition to these players, there's the return of academy players from their loans last season, George Earthy and Freddie Potts, as well as Lewis Orford, who many say is destined to make it to the top. So all in all, we've got something like 9 central midfielders already at the club who are going to be vying for a spot in the senior squad and a spot in the first 11, or at least a spot on the bench. But Potter knows himself that despite all these midfielders that we currently have, he needs something different to what all these players can currently offer. Now, look, whilst we have Alvarez, who can be aggressive in midfield, sometimes overly so, we also have James Ward-Prowse, who decent at keeping possession. We've got Souček who can disrupt the opposition's play, or even Paqueta, who has the ability to find players with his superb range of passing. But we do not have a real all-rounder in central midfield. We don't have a player that can take the game by the scruff of the neck and drive the team forward. We need players in central midfield who've got pace, strength, and creativity. Not much to ask for, I guess. Now, Potter himself has stated that we need to move players on who are on high wages, as we cannot afford expensive bench warmers. And Sullivan repeated much the same thing, suggesting that we need to move some midfielders on. But take Potts, Earthy, and Orford, take the academy players to one side for the moment. How many of the 6 central midfielders who were in last season's squad are likely to be any better at the club this coming season? Are any of them likely to improve on the season that they had last time round? Many fans are worried, and rightly so, that we lost most of our games last season because we had a lack of creativity and a lack of real strength in that central area. In fact, fans have been saying that we've lacked this ever since Declan Rice left the club. Now, we thought in the first season after Rice left that we'd found the answer in Alvarez, or partly the answer in Alvarez, but he loves a red card and a yellow card far too much. And last season, he didn't seem to play anywhere near the level that we know he can achieve. Now, was that a lack of European football? Was that a factor? After all, both Alvarez and Kudus arrived from Ajax when we were still offering European football. But they both seemed to lose their shine, their enthusiasm, when we could no longer offer European football at West Ham. Now, we've got Lucas Paqueta, of course, and with the FA hearing still in the balance, we do not know whether he'll even be allowed to play next season. Now, if he receives a ban, there will be even more reason to go out and find ourselves a creative midfielder. But even if he is found innocent, there is a strong suggestion that he probably will leave for Pastures New before the transfer window shuts. Now, we keep hearing that various clubs around Europe are interested in Alvarez, and his stock will have risen after his successful campaign leading Mexico to glory in the CONCACAF Gold Cup. But even so, there has still been no bids in for Alvarez himself. There has also been constant talk of Rodriguez, Souček, and Irving attracting interest from clubs, but just like Alvarez, no bids as yet. Ironically, the only senior player, well, not ironically, but the only senior player at this moment in time who is not linked with a move elsewhere is Ward-Prowse. And perhaps the half season that he had at Nottingham Forest on loan last season, where he got very little game time, seems to suggest that he's not necessarily a player in great demand. But with our desire to strengthen up our central midfield and make way for new arrivals, why are we getting no bids for any of our central midfielders? I think maybe one of the answers could be related to the wages that these players currently earn at West Ham. As it stands, the only central midfielder on a modest wage is Andy Irving, who is rumoured to be earning as little as £5,000 a week, although that does sound excessively low for a Premier League player. Even a backup Premier League player usually earns a bit more than that. But regardless of what the amount is, my point is he's on a lower wage at the club. And so maybe, just maybe, there's a possibility that a club, primarily from Scotland, might come in for him before this transfer window shuts. But even if Irving was to be sold, it still doesn't massively help to free up an awful lot of funds for future player wages. The problem is players such as Ward-Prowse, he's on about £115,000 a week, Alvarez, £100,000 a week, Souček, £90,000 a week, and Rodriguez, even Rodriguez is on around 75 or more grand a week. Now, even if clubs were to come knocking on West Ham's door for any of these players, they're unlikely to want to or even be willing to pay or able to pay any of these wages the sort of money that they're currently earning at West Ham. The exceptions to the rule maybe if could be Paqueta if he gets off with his FA hearing, and maybe Alvarez as well. But can you see any club who might have an interest in Souček, Ward-Prowse, or Rodriguez paying them the wages that they're currently on? Now, David Moyes was desperately wanted James Ward-Prowse to come to West Ham when he was still there, and he was offered a lucrative long-term contract to get him. And before he left West Ham, Moyes was the catalyst for pushing for Souček to get a new deal, a longer-term deal, and a better pay packet as well. Yet, despite Moyes' admiration for both these players, even he isn't knocking on West Ham's door to sign either one of these players. Look, again, because of our poor management of the past, West Ham are now paying the price of poor contract negotiations, which could continue to stifle our need to improve the squad in that vital central midfield area, and perhaps in other areas as well. 27-year-old Paqueta has 2 years left on his contract, and with wages of 150 grand a week, that equates to 15.6 million pounds of potential wage earnings if he stays. 27-year-old Alvarez, 3 years left on his contract, 100 grand a week, which equates to the same as Paqueta, another 15.6 million pounds in wages for the remainder of that contract. 30-year-old Ward-Prowse, 2 years left on his contract at 115 grand a week, which equates to just under 12 million pounds in wages. And 30-year-old Souček, another player with 2 years left on his contract, meaning that he'll earn anything up to about £9.5 million for the remainder of that contract. And finally, 31-year-old Rodriguez, he's got 2 years left on his contract as well, equaling just under £8 million in wages. So I think we can plainly see the problem, with the exception, as I said, of maybe Paqueta and Alvarez, who could quite possibly leave West Ham this summer. We could be stuck with Ward-Prowse, Souček and Rodriguez for the remainder of their contracts, earning a huge amount of money while still at West Ham. For Souček and Ward-Prowse, we might even be seeking a reasonable transfer offer of anything between 15 to 20 million pounds. Add that to their wages, and that even makes it even harder for us to be able to sell them. Rodriguez, we might accept a modest £5 million bid, but again, who's going to pay him the wages that he's on? But even if these transfers were to be accepted, are any other club, whether in Europe, South America, or anywhere else, are they able or will they want to offer them the wages that they're on? Maybe if Saudi deals came in for any of these players, that might be our outlet. Now, we could, of course, loan any of these players out next season, but even that would be a financial burden to West Ham, because most clubs would want us to subsidise their wages in as much of the same way as we did for Agurd and Maxwell Cornet when they went out on loan last season. It simply wouldn't be financially viable for us to even loan them out. West Ham are stuck with a central midfield problem that is going to be difficult to resolve, which is why if Paqueta is found innocent, then he and possibly Alvarez are almost certain to be the two main central midfielders that we might push to sell this summer, so that might give us a bit of leeway in bringing in maybe two younger players and, dare I say it, wage-wise cheaper alternatives who would fit into our starting lineup, leaving the likes of high-earning Ward-Prowse, Souček, Rodriguez as backups, filling the subs bench next season. But if Potts, Orford and Earthy, I know Earthy's currently injured at the moment, but if those three young academy players prove themselves to be worthy of a senior squad place during pre-season, then maybe the likes of Ward-Prowse, Souček and Rodriguez might not even make the bench. What a conundrum to be in. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll be back again maybe later on today with another video. But in the meantime, at least we've got one signing in. Let's see now if we can improve on that by getting in the central midfielders we need to be more dynamic in that area of the pitch. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all soon.